Hi everyone, I'm Amy Johnson-Crow, and I am here today with David Lambert, who is the Chief Genealogist at the New England Historic Genealogical Society.
Exactly.
That's a mouthful.
It really is.
It really is. New England Ancestry is a little bit different than what I typically do in the Mid-Atlantic and in the South. If somebody is just getting started and they see, oh, I have these lines out of, what sort of records and resources can they expect to be able to use in New England?
Well, I mean, for American Ancestors, which is our brand for the New England Historic Genealogical Society, I mean, after 172 years, we're not going to change the main title of the organization, but we're so much more than just New England, which I have to constantly remind people all the time, and also remind people that New York and Pennsylvania are part of New England, even though we're more than happy to adopt them at any point in time. For New England, it really depends on the time frame. I mean, you have so many different ways of migrations, like the 17th century people, all the great scholarship by Robert Charles Anderson and the Great Migration takes care of that. Then you have a lull of passenger lists for arrivals, at least from about the 1640s all the way until about 1820. I mean, in the 18th century, there's practically no passenger list for the most part for the Port of Boston. So there's a variety of records. I mean, you're dealing with tax records as census substitutes prior to 1790. There is in Massachusetts, for instance, a 1771 direct tax, which is valuable. For placement of people, there are so many probates that have been digitized between American Ancestors and Family Search that you can search for these things. I always say if you can get somebody to at least into a county, using probate and deeds will get you to a town, and then on a town level, we're very lucky with New England because they started keeping town records so very early that if you can't find them in that, I always say, well, seek out the church records.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's doable from the 17th century all the way into the 20th century. I've never had too much trouble negotiating, and we haven't had a lot of fires either, which is kind of nice.
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps. Yeah, and that's something you mentioned, the towns. That's something that I've kind of had to wrap my head around, because in the Midwest, I mean, yes, we have township records, and there are some things that are kept on a city or a township level, but the bulk of our records are on the county level.
Correct.
But in New England, you have vital records on the town level. So just getting into a county isn't necessarily going to help that much. You really need to be more specific. Well,
in the early days in Massachusetts, for instance, there are actually marriage records and births that are recorded in the county clerk's office, the quarterly courts. The probate and deeds get a little different. In Connecticut, for instance, deeds are not done on the county, they're done on the town level. Massachusetts are on the county level. Connecticut primarily settled Vermont, and so you have the same thing where the town level deals with the deeds. And then you have probate districts in Vermont, and they also have probate districts in Connecticut. And of course, a district can span multiple counties depending on the boundaries, so that can sometimes be a problem.
So that can be a little confusing then.
A good primer is a guide to New England handbook that we published a few years ago by American Ancestors, and that will help you kind of spell out county by county. It was a book done by my colleague Michael LeClaire, who many people probably know.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that sounds like for those of us who typically do a lot of Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, trying to get that mind shift to start thinking more about towns and districts and things like that. That sounds great. Well, thank you for answering my questions. And if people want to find out more about NEHGS, where can they find more? The really easy way to just go to AmericanAncestors.org, which is our website for the New England Historic Genealogical Society. And if you want to follow about what I'm doing, just go to ExtremeGenes.com. Every week I'm on there on Family History Radio. Yes, and he does a fine job.
Thank you.
All right, David, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Amy.
And thank you. And I will have links to everything that he mentioned. I'll have it down below in the show notes, and we will catch you later. Bye-bye.